I'm here with Garth from Garth's Beer Bar. What's up, Garth? How you doing?
Hey man, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, this is your welcoming. You're welcome to the Badger Beer Report. So we want to welcome you, but also we're going to use this podcast as a look into who Garth is, and let's find out all about Garth's Beer Bar. I'm sorry, Brew Bar. If you're in Madison and you're a craft beer person, I'm pretty sure you're going to know a lot of this stuff. But if you're not in Madison, you're a craft beer person, I'm pretty sure you're not going to know a lot of this stuff. So if you're near Madison, or you all dip into Madison, anybody normally, Garth is going to be a destination for you. If you haven't already, or if you don't already know, you're going to know now. So Garth, where let's start at the beginning. I always love to start at the beginning. Where did your love of beer start? And was there a particular beer that brought you over to the dark side, or where's this story?
Yeah, well, it all started with a bad bottle of homebrew. Was at a buddy's house and apartment, and he had pulled out a bottle and said, "Try this." Didn't give me much context beyond that, and then learned that it was a bottle of homebrew, and it was not terrible. It was him and a few buddies just, got a little kit, brewed a beer, and it ended up actually turning out all right, despite, any homebrewers listening. I'm sure we've all started off in lesser than adequate environments to brew beer, i.e. a dorm room apartment is probably one of those places that you wouldn't normally want to brew a beer or be able to brew a good one. And the moment that touched my lips, I was curious. And so I asked more about home brewing, the background of it, started reading books about it, started participating in home brewing with him. And from there, it just flared out from that. It was like I was introduced to this whole new community of beer drinkers. So it started with home brewing before it even got to, craft beer as we know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you got the craft beer, what was the bridge between homebrew and craft beer? What was?
Yeah, it was. I do remember it. It was just experimenting with new beers. Like the first craft beer, legitimate one I had locally was Ale Asylum. And then the much more, like at the time, not necessarily mass produced, was Goose Island. And had a couple of those beers. And I was like, holy crap, you could actually have some good tasting brews, better than the home brew. And the home brew is better than the craft beer that we were drinking in the college. So that was like an easy segue into, okay, if all these people are trying to home brew and brew excellent stuff, the best way to like know what you want to go after is to try a lot of stuff. So like, again, the theme here, curiosity at the core of it, curiosity around home brewing, curiosity around craft beer, and experimentation on both those parts of, let me try brewing this, let me try brewing that. Had done some bad homebrew batches that we had to dump, and had some, bad craft beer too. But at the time also had some good craft beer.
Any stand out? Anyone stand out to you? I know people, especially in Wisconsin, talk about Spotted Cow, but I've also heard about Fat Tire. I've heard there's just a gamut of different. I've heard Mud Pudding Quarter from Central Waters. Did you have one that was specific to you?
For me, it was probably New Glarus's Two Women was the go. Like I jumped right over Spotted Cow. Had it, was fine, but it wasn't like, hey, I got to get a case of this. It went straight to New Glarus Two Women, and I think that was because I wanted something that was still, extremely drinkable. It's a lager, right? But then it had a little bit of like bitterness to it, a little notes. So that to me felt like the perfect introduction beer. And then because I'm from Illinois and I have that attachment to Goose Island, their 312 wheat ale was the other
312
like
is the
gate.
classic.
Yeah, both those beers, those were my gateway beers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, drinking lagers is obviously there's a bridge to wanting to start your own craft beer bar, which is
Yeah,
a big
yeah,
leap. So
yeah.
how are we going to make that how are we going to make that leap from you drinking two women beer from New Glarus to
Well, yeah,
a
yeah.
whole.
Well, I don't know, maybe like 150 different beers later, going to all of the liquor stores in the Madison area, buying singles or 4 packs or 6 packs if I have to just keep trying stuff. And then that same buddy that I had homebrewed with, we ended up doing a beercation to Belgium and did a little segue to Budapest. He had a friend there, and we found a bar called Hops. And it still exists today. But we got there, and it was just epic. It was a two-floored space. It had a variety of spaces inside it, some communal areas, some private areas. It had some bar space. So it was just like very versatile. And the owner was working, and you could ask him about any of the beers that they had on draft or in bottle, but he would always tell you something and then like give you some insight or some background of the brewery. And mind you, this was all in like broken English, but he still tried. He knew his stuff beyond just the beer itself. And so it was like you got a beer and you got a story and you're in this amazing space. So naturally, I'm there with my buddy having a few beers, and that's where the idea sparks of like we got to build something like this back in Madison. I'd always had like an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to build some form of business, just didn't know what it was at the time. But then, yeah, at Hops in Budapest was when the idea clicked, and so then started the 3.5 year journey of planning, researching, surveying, and then executing, opening up Garth's Brew Bar. So we opened up in November of 2019.
And that timing was
Interesting. Just a few months before the pandemic. Yeah, and I had a
yeah, you
pretty
decided to open up a business that
yeah
people need to come in and socialize and
yeah.
be together. And yeah, how did that work, Garth? I mean, you were
And
still here.
yeah, still here. So, it worked. And in the heart of Madison too, where, we had the strongest restrictions on us in the whole state. Um, and we were the last ones to be able to open and have any capacity. And we were never built as like a brew pub sort of model. Like we're not a brewery, it is a beer bar, and we don't have a full kitchen. So restaurants were able to open before we were even able to open with capacity during the pandemic or toward the tail end of the pandemic. So it was a journey. I'm thankful for those 3 months though, because people came in, checked us out, fell in love, understood our missions, understood what we were going for. And so without those 3 months, we wouldn't have had a moment to connect with a community of beer drinkers and the neighborhood. And they are the reason why we still exist, because they supported us throughout the whole pandemic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a great time right now to talk about your location, which I find interesting. I've always found that interesting. It's a great location. I think you can walk out your front door there and see Camp Randall Stadium or a part of it,
Yeah,
right? Or no?
yeah, yeah. You could see
Okay.
it, and you could hear
Yeah.
it during game days too. If you open the door, you could hear the game, like the crowd roaring.
Yeah. Tell everybody where you're at,
Yeah, we're on Monroe Street.
please.
Yeah, Monroe Street, just across from Orange Tree Imports, which is the place most people know. On the same side of the street as Trader Joe's as well. And location for me was really, 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 really important in two ways. One, it had to be in a neighborhood with both merchants and neighbors who were very supportive. Like this couldn't be a like there are other streets, I won't name them in Madison, but merchants butt heads against each other. And if somebody's going to that business, then they're upset about it. But like Monroe Street is all ships rise with the tide. There's a Monroe Street Merchants Association. We all work together to understand, like, if we're in this together, we're all going to succeed in the end. That in and of itself was another piece of why we survived the pandemic, thanks to all that camaraderie on the street. But then the second piece of the location for me was having a great landlord. And I had heard horror stories of other businesses having issues with their landlords, troubles with their landlords, even pre-pandemic. And the pandemic was like 10x that, because landlords too were struggling with income and couldn't work, things out with tenants, et cetera, that really needed the support at the time. So very grateful for ULI, Urban Land Interests, for their landlordship of the building we're in. So that to me was really important. And I even waited a full year to find a location that I knew, because there were a couple other spots on Monroe Street, but I didn't have the sort of connection and belief in the landlord with them as I do with ULI.
Yeah, and you also moved. You were there when Brasserie V was still going.
Yeah.
And that was a very wonderful beer food place. So you moved in, I think, right up. I mean, you could probably walk out and see Brasserie V from.
Yeah.
I mean, your location is really awesome and interesting. For someone who lives out of town, for me though, it sometimes feels too far, but for where you're at and your community and the walkability of your place and
For sure.
just the energy that I'm pretty sure it has, out even outside of those 10 days that Bucky's playing over there and all that, and we got all these other things going on with the vibe of the university. You're so close, and all the kids, young adults, I call them kids, sorry.
Yeah.
Young adults hang out, you know what I mean? Regent Street. I mean, that's all their territory. So
Yeah.
that must be fun having it must be fun having that energy.
Yeah, super fun. It's really, really dynamic. I always think of it like a Target. At the core of it, we have our craft beer drinkers. So they'll travel. It doesn't matter. The distance doesn't matter for them, because it's like, I just want the best of the best, right? And then you've got the neighborhood. That's really important to me. And Monroe Street neighborhood, Vilas and Monroe, Dungeon Monroe neighborhood, very vibrant, very eclectic, very fun. Like, you probably saw all the Santas, like 10-foot blown up Santas during the holidays. The whole street lines up with it, not just the merchants, but the neighborhood themselves. And then the third is just like all this eclectic, fun communities that we host. Like you mentioned before we started recording about how many things we're doing at Garth's Brew Bar. And we're able to do so many things because we just find like small groups of communities of like, here's some crocheting people, or we just started up Star Trek trivia for the Trekkies in the community. And we have different arts nights and bingo nights and all these different things that there are people in the area that gravitate toward, but don't have a space like Garth's Brew Bar to enjoy themselves in their craft or their hobby or their passion.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've been to your bar only a few times. I've actually probably got curbside from your bar more than I've been inside, actually.
Yeah.
But it's close. But what I love, but I do follow your beer bar on social media pretty hard.
Sure.
If I lived in your community, you would be my third place, for a couple of reasons outside of me knowing who you are and being your friend.
Yeah.
Like, there are things that attract me to a place like yours, which is, again, outside of, if I didn't know that y'all sold beer, it would be hard for me to know what y'all do. I would literally call you a community center, because when you look at your events, I mean, you have just woven yourself into your fabric of your community. You can just see it by the events, y'all. Like, you can just see it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really and I told the crew when Garth was introduced to our family, our Badger Beer family, one of the things I told my crew was that one of the things I love about Garth's Beer Bar is that it's community. It reminds me of, it doesn't necessarily look like it, but it reminds me of an old school pub, where there were literally community things. People met community wise.
Yeah.
Yes, they would have a beer, but it wasn't about the beer. It was about the community. It was a community space. So I don't know if you want to talk to that about how you
Yeah.
perceive Garth's bar in that way.
Yeah, so it's really funny you emphasize that so much because that was never part of the original mission of Garth's Brew Bar. We had two missions when I opened. This is in the business plan. It's on our website. First one is to raise the bar of bars. I felt like there are bars not just in the Madison area, but just globally
In
that
general.
could be doing better, that could care more, that could be more clean, that could educate their team members, get them smarter on the products, et cetera, and the stories. So I wanted to be a place that other places looked at and thought, hey, if Garth can do that, I can do that too. Like be inspirational to them. That was one. Raise the bar of bars, hold other people accountable. And then the second one was to help breweries thrive. So that is core to how I started in the industry of beer, not just from home brewing, but I was a journalist writing about breweries that have opened, that have closed, brewery owners, brewery operators, brewers themselves, and wanted to do something more than just write about them. So that was like, again, added fuel to the idea of opening up a beer bar. So those are our two missions when we opened. Raise the bar of bars, help breweries thrive. If you do the Wayback Machine on the internet, you'll see those are only two missions listed on our website. As mainly after the tail end of the pandemic when we started opening up, our space just became this third space for people. We started to do more events. All of our team members asked, hey, like I'm part of this group, can I have them in on Wednesdays to socialize? Like I don't want to work on Wednesday because I want to be with them, but I want to bring them here. I was like, for sure. And then we started getting emails of like, hey, could you open up an extra hour early? I'm meeting with these like other developer group people for a meetup. Okay, awesome. We could do that. So we just basically started saying yes to basically anything. If any group wanted to, check out the space, reserve a table, open up a little bit early, we did that. And then I was pretty vocal with the neighborhood too, to say, you come to me with any ideas, I'll try it. I always try it once for you. Hey, have you ever thought of like doing a movie night, or have you ever thought of running bingo? Yeah, no, maybe not. Maybe I have, but if I haven't tried it, I'm going to. And so it just snowballed into this thing. And like the more people saw that we were doing things, the more other people were like, well, I'm actually part of this other community too. I'm going to invite them over to come hang out at Garth's Brew Bar too. So it's just a snowball effect at this point.
And now it's time for our sponsor.
Calling all craft beer enthusiasts. Whether you're a hophead, a stout lover, or just someone looking to sip on something unique, Garth's Brew Bar is your new favorite destination. Located right in the heart of Monroe Street, this cozy, community-focused craft beer bar serves up an ever-rotating lineup of exceptional drafts and hard seltzers from the best breweries around.
All right. Thanks for holding. So Garth, one thing I do want to talk to you about is credibility. One of the things that I know that you are is a cicerone,
Yeah.
and a certified cicerone. So I would like for you to talk about that, and also how that, in my opinion, brings some credibility to what you're doing, and that whole. Let's tell people about that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Again, the Cicerone status, I'll give you background to it. That is aligns perfectly with raise the bar of bars. Like if you could have not only just beer tenders, but ownership have this level of certification to show and share that they're educated, they're knowledgeable, they give a damn. That's me critically important for raising the bar of bars. So I held myself accountable to getting the Cicerone certification before I opened Garth's Brew Bar. So I was studying for it at the same time that I was building out the business plan, et cetera, finding the space. Because it was really important to me that I could open up Garth's Brew Bar and say, yes, it is owned by a certified Cicerone. He knows his stuff when it comes to beer. And then that wasn't enough for me. So all of my beer tenders are Cicerone beer server certified. It's probably like a 40 minutes exam that you could take online, but you've got to know basic beer styles. You got to know basic beer serving. You got to know basic brewing processes, storage, like the whole gamut from grain to glass. You have to have a firm understanding about. And that enables all of our beer tenders to have just a touch of knowledge higher than the general public that's going to come in. That way they could relate to them and share some information with them. Like you've probably heard the term edutainment. Like you come to Garth's Brew Bar for entertainment, whether it's the entertainment you create yourselves or just the space that you're in. But then there's education. Most people don't have that. They just go, I want entertainment. But if they could take something home with themselves in addition to just the joy of entertainment, then that was really important to me for having staff trained and have the knowledge to share information about the beers, the brewing processes, and the added benefit of it that I didn't intend for, but was a result of that knowledge is people truly do come to Garth's Brew Bar and ask beer tenders for their opinion or ask them to come over to the cooler. It's not one of those scenarios where you're like, I'm a little hesitant to ask them. I don't know if they know everything that's in the cooler. Like anybody who comes in knows that this person knows every beer in that cooler and could recommend something, find something, and then share a little bit of fun fact about that thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's important because, even for beer geeks like me, it's very intimidating when you walk in and you have 100 choices.
Yeah.
So even for someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis is real. And beer tenders actually pointed that out to me and we ideated around it. And if you look in our cooler, there's two cool things in there. There's a blind date beer. So it's a wrapped beer can that says either dark, sour, or hoppy. And if you don't know what to choose, but you're like, I know I like sours, there you go. Make it super easy for you. You don't have to scan. And then we have curated 6-packs in there too. So again, if you just kind of know, like, I want light beers, but I don't know which light beers I want, curated 6-pack, the beer tenders have custom built themselves from the cooler. So you're guaranteed like their best picks each time you purchase it. So tried to resolve a little bit of that analysis process because that's real.
It is real. And warning y'all, the first 20 minutes of this, you got Garth's background. We talked about the bar. We're about to get a little bit geeky here. So I'm just warning you. But it'll be fun, y'all. And you'll get some more insights into Garth here. But these are questions that I found that I love, and I think they also bring in maybe a different aspect of Garth and his bar that we may not be thinking of. So
yeah.
So Garth, how do you handle the challenges of maintaining a fresh and exciting beer list? I've always wanted to ask, how many taps do y'all have?
Yeah.
And is there any kind of philosophy that you do to put into that, curating that? And in my opinion, from what I know and what I've seen, a wonderful list.
Yeah. So 16 beer taps, and then we've got a 16-foot long cooler that has about 95 different beers in it at any given time. Max is probably like 130 that I've had in there of varieties. It's all about breaking down a good number of styles that if somebody comes in and is like, I like a Doppelbock, do you have that? We might not be able to say yes. Sometimes we can, but when we can't, there's got to be something that we could say, no, but have you tried this? And like, it's got to be adjacent to the Doppelbock style, right? That they will actually appreciate and maybe even appreciate more than what they went in there thinking. So you can't just be like, no, pick something entirely different. Like you're shit out of luck. That's not cool for us. So all of the beers that we have on tap, I've got to be able to have some adjacent ideas. So there's dedicated lines of like, here are the dark beers. Here's how many IPAs we have. But even in IPAs, if there's 4 lines of IPAs, I have an American style, I have a session IPA, I have a danky, West Coast IPA, and I maybe have like a weird one or a fan favorite one filling in for the 4th one, juicy, hazy, something like that. So, it's a lot of strategy in that regard. In the cooler, it's much more fun and much more difficult. So I work with about 50 different breweries at any given time. And that's like my max for how much I could understand about the brewery, maintain a relationship with them. Like we all have bandwidth, right? Only 24 hours in the day. I can't sustain a quality relationship with 250 breweries, right? Like that's just not feasible. So I do rotate them out. And so it's not always the same 50 that I work with. There's probably like 15 that are like absolute staples that I have the best relationships with and believe in their beer the most. But then the rest of them, over time, I'll cycle through, introduce some new ones. So there's always this flavor of new there, but like it has to be earned. And there are breweries that I just don't work with anymore because I don't believe in their mission, their philosophy, their ownership, or their decisions, or their beers. You name it. There's not every brewery is amazing. Gotta admit that, and they don't find themselves on the shelf of Garth Brew Bar.
Well, that's interesting to me, but I'm gonna leave that until after I hit the record button. But so that being said, you answered my next follow up, which is basically factors that influence your beer selection process, because again, there has to be some curating going on here, whether it be in your cooler or on the tap list.
Yeah, it's kind of everything I said. I'm going to tie it quickly back. You mentioned Brasserie V. It was great when they were in existence on the street because they would send people to us and we'd send people to them. They were known as the Belgian beer bar. So if you wanted Belgian beers, imported stuff, you go to Brasserie V. And that to me was important. One, to support another business, but also two, when it comes to quality of beer, I wanted fresh and I wanted local. And local could have, quotation marks around it. Local to some people is the Madison area. Local might be Wisconsin. To me, local is the U.S. when I think about what beers are at the bar. So there are zero imported beers in Garth Brew Bar, zero domestic beers, macro beers in Garth Brew Bar. It is all craft, it is all U.S. So that helps narrow down the list of, 9,000 breweries in the U.S. that I've got to work through, and even far more than that globally.
So, kind of the same strain here. We see a lot of breweries going under and merging or being bought out by other ones. What are your thoughts on the importance of supporting your local breweries and the impact of like craft beer tourism on the region?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I opened up Garth Brew Bar was because of how incredible the people behind the breweries are, not just in making beer, but in their communities, how much they give back, how much they invest in their space to be a community space. So to support them is like exponential impact outside of them when you think about it. If I go buy a beer from a brewery, I'm not just supporting the brewery, I'm supporting all of the other people that are going there, all of the workers that are there. One of my favorite moments, one of my favorite moments at every year is looking at how much we've paid our team members and the ripple effect that has. Like, you buying a beer at a brewery enables that brewery to pay other people that work there that then invest in their communities. And it's just like this total cycle. So I'm a big believer in the philosophy of like, you invest in your people invest in the customers or the guests, and then they invest in the establishment of the brewery in that case. So the more you could do that, like, you are a core piece of that puzzle. If you don't go and support the brewery, they can't then support their team. The team can't support their community. So it's a necessity.
Yeah. One of our missions at Badger Beer Report is to let people know and just from friendly remind people that breweries are small businesses that employ, sometimes hundreds of people, depending on, we got big ones here, but definitely tens of people. For sure. And those people need jobs, and we're not going to go down that road. We all know about all that, but there's a lot of that going on. I don't know if we make those connections directly, but so this is you answered some of these questions, but I kind of want to ask you directly. What is one of the most rewarding aspects of owning your bar?
Yeah, so I already said the investment with the people. I mean, just had a team event with all of our beer tenders the other night, and like for a moment there, I just sat back, and Brew was there with me, and we just sat back and we just like looked at all of them. Like, how cool is this that we created something and brought all these people together, and we're just having a good time, was really, really special. Outside of that, though, like the thing that fills me up the most is when I'm at Garth's Brew Bar and I'm not repping any gear, like I'm there undercover almost, and I hear somebody say something positive about Garth's Brew Bar, like, "Oh, did you see that they have this?" or "Oh, I love that beer tender." Like they were so insightful, so knowledgeable. Like you hear little bits of that, and that's when I just know. Every time I hear that, I was like, "Oh yeah, we made it. We did it. This is kick ass. This is awesome." So those probably fill my cup up the most when I catch those moments, and they don't know I'm there listening, right?
Right. And you led me down the road to my next question, which is do you have a specific like memorable story about a customer experience or anything that really moved you that happened in your bar that you could think of at the top of your head? For the record, Garth and I are friends, but he got none of these questions, y'all. So
Yeah,
just so you know.
you're catching me off the cuff here. There's so many good ones, but there's a quick funny one. I'll try and keep it short. But basically, this is really funny. So this guy comes in and he orders big hefty beer, like a big beer, okay, and then he orders a second one. And I'm like, all right. And then he orders a third one. And we're like, okay, at this point we're watching this guy. Like we do small pours, but we're watching him. And he said he then talks to us and said he's sitting at the bar, talks to us, and he's waiting there for a date. Date comes in and she gets a beer and they start talking and I could just tell, I'm not even eavesdropping, I could just tell this is not going to work. This is a Tinder date, the first date, and he goes to the bathroom. Of course he has to, right after putting down a few big beers. He goes to the bathroom and the girl gets up at the same time and asks for the check. And I just close her out. Like I'm reading the room on all of this. I just close her out. I'm like, this isn't on the house. You gonna go? Do you like anything you want me to tell the guy? And she's like, no, just tell him like I had to go. I'm like, all right. And the dude comes back and he just starts swiping away on Tinder again, like there, and has one more beer and then takes off. And like it just blows my mind, the audacity of it all, but then also like it was not a meet cute moment. This was no Hallmark movie scene. It was the complete opposite.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. That is great. I'm sure that there's more too. You see all kinds of things.
Yeah, so many things.
Yes,
Madison
yes.
did a good column, and I hope they do it like annually. But they did I think this might have been like November of last year. They did a call out to different bar owners and bartenders asking for their like craziest stories. So you can find some other stuff if you go to madisonmagazine.com and then Google Garth's Brew Bar. Just put that in the search, and you'll find an article with other people's stories too.
That's fun. That sounds fun. So I got two more questions for you, then we'll get to rapid fire real quick.
Yeah.
And or we'll have a preview for y'all about what we're going to be doing with this podcast, because this is just an introduction to Garth, let you know who he is if you're not familiar with that, and let you know what the bar is if you're not familiar with that. But Garth, what are so we've seen the challenges in the craft beer industry across the board, and we'll probably get into those in coming podcasts for sure, especially about Madison. We're going to deep dive into Madison, talk about that. But what are some of the biggest challenges facing specifically craft beer bars, and specifically maybe in Wisconsin today? And from your big anecdotal evidence.
Yeah. People are drinking less in this area in particular. And they're drinking more variety of beverages. So one of the things that I have to pat myself on the back a little bit on is we called it Garth's Brew Bar for a very specific reason early on, that I didn't know where beer and beverage was going to go. So purposefully, we are a beer bar. We market ourselves as a beer bar, but the name was really important to have brew instead of beer, because you could brew a lot of things, including beer. And so when you go to Garth's Brew Bar now, yeah, it started off with beer, but now we have kombucha, we have cider, we have seltzer, we have THC stuff. It is just like no shortage of liquids that have been brewed. And that's been really critical to our survival throughout the downturn of beer consumption in particular, is because people don't stop going to Garth's Brew Bar just because they stop drinking beer. We have other options for them. And you're seeing no shortage of breweries make the pivot switch and start producing other beverages. Breweries are becoming beverage producers again, which I think is really cool, really great of them. There was a brief moment before the Delta 9 THC stuff started to come out that brewers were not making that beverage, but I had guests demanding it. And so I had to bring something in that was not made by a brewery to sell, because we are a brew bar, we have beverages and want people come in, right? And so the moment that other breweries started producing these beverages, hard kombuchas too, like Lake Louie in the area had a hard kombucha brand that we carried for a while. Like, that was really important to me. Help breweries thrive. I could get this stuff from any number of unnamed, unknown providers, but it was important to me to find breweries to produce those liquids. So I think the places that are struggling are the ones that have put themselves too far into a corner. We will always be known as the beer bar, but for the few people that come through wanting something else than beer, we always got their backs, which is really important.
So real quick, I wasn't going to ask this question. So y'all have an assortment of, NA wine?
Yeah.
Do y'all mess around with wine, or do y'all mess around with wines and meads and ciders?
Yeah, we can't do wine because that's a different liquor license in Dane County in Madison. So we don't do that. Don't do hard liquor. Don't do wine. But which I think is a little bit of a joke, because the number of bottles that are wine-like, high ABV, taste like wine, have been aged in wine barrels. Like, you might as well just call it wine. Or even mixed. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's
brewed
ridiculous.
IPAs.
Yeah, brewed IPA. Yeah, all of these like wine-esque stuff. But yeah, we can't have wine because we don't have the liquor license for it. But everything else: ciders, seltzers, kombuchas, Delta 9 THC drinks, teas, you name it. If it's not wine and not hard liquor, we got it.
All right. And my final question in our in our conversation here is, what advice would you give to someone who's considering opening their own craft beer bar? And I'm pretty sure, don't open it right before a pandemic is probably number one, but we'll put that aside.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, but you have any other advice?
Oh man, no shortage of it. I will. Let's make this call out. Anybody can reach me if they want to learn more, because I have copious amounts of advice. I'll share my business plan, etc. If anybody's looking to start something similar at their location, biggest thing for me is just like have the right support. And I mean that super broadly. You got to have landlord support, mentioned that. You've got to have neighborhood support, got to get approvals for stuff, got to have other people with business acumen to give you support. I relied on the Small Business Development Center for assistance throughout the whole development of the bar. Family support, friend support, like, get yourself as much support as you can. My name is on the bar. I am not the only one that opened it. Like, we don't have partners, no other investors or anything like that, but there's no shortage of people that supported me in the pursuit of opening this. So surround yourself with support, more than you ever think you need.
Well, that's excellent. And do I have?
Nice.
Yeah, I have some claps for that. We will be introducing some little fun things here, but this is our first one, so we're going to be, and we just want to put the focus on Garth and his bar. So
yeah,
but we're going to add some fun to this. But I just wanted to I just want to thank you for that. So we're going to move to we're going to have a rapid fire section where Garth, I have so many questions for Garth as far as like the business. I'm a business beer geek, so I have all kinds of questions. We're just going to rapid fire some questions here at the end of at the end of our podcast, y'all. But actually, hold on. You wanted to do the preview first, right, Garth?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, do the preview, and then we'll hit a few questions.
Okay, cool. Yeah, on the way out. So that's what we'll do. So we wanted to do a little preview for y'all what we're gonna try to do here with Garth's podcast here. Under our Badger Beer Report stream, we're gonna have news, events, we're gonna have Joel on the road, brewery travels, we're gonna have all kinds of ones, but on this specific podcast, y'all, I believe we're gonna try for once a month, but it may not be once a month. We're going to make sure that we curate content for y'all. Garth wants to put a couple out there and see what y'all really want, and maybe we can start even doing some surveys to see what y'all want to hear from us, what y'all want to know. We will soon be opening up our we have our email, which I'll give at the end, but we also will soon be opening up our we'll have a voicemail line, Garth, so people can call in and leave voicemails. So we'll be taking voicemails, hopefully, questions for you and everybody in our staff. So we're looking forward to that. Garth, do you want to talk about anything that you're interested in, you're ready to talk about, or you want people to contact us about?
Yeah, anything and all things beer brewing business. So completely open book here. We mentioned, sharing a business plan, etc. If anybody has questions of how do you, like more specific ones of how do you open a beer bar, etc. Any advice? Like I'm an open book when it comes to those things. And then if you want to get geeky on all things beer, where trends are going, etc. Like let's just open some cans and see what's inside.
Well, if you want, we can. Again, you're in control of the content as much as I am on this one. So, I mean, we could just do a whole episode on just literally the business. We kind of skirted around the issue, but if you want to get into these details and tell everybody what's going on, I am here for it. I love it. And I think some people will be fascinated by that, especially if they know you. And you've been in the bar. The more transparency I believe small business owners give their the regulars, I think the better for everybody.
For sure.
And that's kind of how I feel. But on that one, so yeah, y'all, and we're always going to be taking y'all suggestions, and so we're here for y'all, especially Garth knows, he knows a lot about the Madison blueprint, but he also knows a lot about the Wisconsin blueprint, and he's also friends with all the people in our group, and collectively in the Badger Beer Report we cover all of Wisconsin. So as far as beer goes, so I love to say, because Garth was talking about support, I love to say I'm not that smart, but I'm smarter because of my friends, and I can make those contacts and those calls and say, hey, what do you know? And then all of a sudden I'm the smart guy because now I have the answers too. So right. That's when you run with a good crew. And that's why I run with an awesome crew. I love my people, and Garth is definitely now one of them. So welcome again, Garth. But with that being said, I think that's our preview, y'all. I'm just going to hit Garth with a couple quick questions, and then we're going to get out of here. We'll see y'all definitely for St. Patty's, because we're going to come back for St. Patty's and talk about St. Patty's beer, local, the ones we like from Wisconsin, the ones we like locally, because Garth obviously sees a whole bunch. And then Garth's going to bring us some, maybe some pairings for some cheeses, because Cicerone needs to know about beer pairings, y'all. So beer pairings are going to be and different things that you could bring to a party, if you're going out, or a mixer before the party. We're in Wisconsin, there's always pre-gaming going on before the game, there's after game party, and there's all kinds. So we're gonna try to hit y'all with everything, as far as when these holidays come up, because sometimes the holidays are tricky, Garth. I'm going to a January 4th, and I just don't want to bring Bud, and I'm not bringing Bud. So I need to, I need a seasonal six pack. And I need to go in a Garth's bar and say, no, I need a seasonal six pack. So we're going to work on all that. We're going to have recommendations for you. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun, because that's the stuff that I love. But anyway, Garth, Garth, I have a couple questions here for you. So number one, is there one piece of beer etiquette that everyone seems to forget?
No, that's tricky. That's a tricky question. No. This is rapid fire, right? No, nobody's forgetting anything. It's beer, so you do you.
Okay. What's one brewery trend you like to see disappear in 2025?
Oh man. brewery trend I like to see disappear is probably. Oh, people are gonna hate me for this one. Smoked beers. I think smoked beers can disappear. If you want smoked flavor, have a good beer and eat a smoked meat and enjoy the pairing and the collaboration of that in your mouth. Don't infuse that into the beer.
Wrong answer, Garth. Anyway, and since Garth got that answer wrong, we're only gonna give him one more. No. So, if you could have any brewer guest tap at your bar, and I'm assuming there's restrictions, so you don't have the choice of it. If you could have one brewer guest tap at your bar that you can't now, who would it be and why?
Ooh.
Or what would it be? Is it a specific beer? Is it a specific brewery?
Yeah, no, rapid fire. So my answer is Prize Brewing in Minnesota. I go there annually, if not a couple times a year, whenever I get to that state, and it's always good stuff. It's in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prize.
Yeah, Pryes.
Okay.
Prize.
Okay.
Just good beer, great memories, good people, love their space, love their food. And
specific beer? Any specific beer that jumps off?
That
you remember, or is just
probably Modicum. I remember that beer from them in particular, Modicum and IPA. But any one of their beers, I'll take. They're just they're one of the breweries that I am waiting to have distribution to Madison, because I'll pick them up right away.
Oh, that's excellent. All right, Garth, I want to thank you. We will be hearing much more from you coming up here soon. Can you leave us with your where can people find you? On social media?
Garth's Brew Bar, pretty much anywhere, any socials. Otherwise, just Google best craft beer bar in Madison. I'll pop up.
Excellent. You'll also be able to find Garth on other Badger Beer Report contents and media coming up here, but this is going to be the primary place that you're going to be able to find Garth and on Garth's still unknown titled podcasts, but this one we titled From Vision to Tap, y'all, the story of Garth's Brew Bar. So we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. You can find Badger Beer Report at badgerbeerreport.com, and you can Google it and you'll see us on Threads, YouTube, and a bunch of other social medias. But we're kind of in flux as far as the social media goes, as everybody else is. But if y'all Google Badger Beer Report or Badger Beer Hour, you'll be able to find our YouTube page and our things, and ultimately find Garth through that way too. But you could also find Garth through Garth's Brew Bar. We want to thank you for listening, and we will check y'all out the next time that we talk to Garth about various things in Madison and that. So thanks, Garth, and thank y'all for listening. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Yeah, cheers. Y'all. Yeah.